So we have our panelists here, our main speakers from Hanya, who spoke about, I just want to remind you of the situation in the Middle East. It was very enlightening. Jennifer, who spoke about Mary Magdalene and some insights of feminine identity. We have Anita, who spoke to us about the challenges in the West for women and some of the ways she's addressing that. Iska and Rabbi, who also helped us to understand more about feminine identity in the Tanakh, and then we have Sister, who helped us to understand feminine identity in the New Testament and the church. And of course, Dr. Rodriguez, who helped us to dive into philosophy, especially postmodern. I'll never forget this. It's amazing. So I would like each of you to take some time. We'll have a chance to ask some questions, but we would like Anita, who's the director of the Women's Institute in Rome, to lead us in this. So I hope you have some questions.
Thank you, Kathleen. So the idea is, okay. The idea is for us to take 3 or 4 minutes, think about the questions, and then we will begin in order, so we can go from right to left, from left to right. We will write down the questions. I think it will be better if everyone could state their questions, and at the end we can divide them by the topic, so each one of the panelists can answer them. Okay, by blocks, I mean. Okay, so let's take until 4 to 5 minutes to think. Well, think. Yes. So that, and then we will see the question.
You need like
It sounds like an exam.
think thoroughly.
I'm wondering about
Questions.
It's an agony to think of a question.
it's not an argument.
Check 1, 2.
Turn the AC air conditioner off from over there.
Yeah, we're freezing.
Okay, are you ready? It's not that everyone has to ask something, but the thing is to present a question that was thought before. So Let's begin like this. So in this side, does anyone have a question? Just okay.
שלום, דובר. שלום. Es cada שאלות שלי באספניול, ¿ok? Español. La pregunta mía es, en base a la identidad, hablamos mucho de la identidad femenina, la identidad masculina. Y mi pregunta es, ¿cómo integrar la parte masculina y femenina nuestra, vivir en paz con nuestras partes femenina y masculina, para luego poder relacionarlos con el otro? Y me falta un poco esta integración dentro de uno
Ujú.
primero, para luego hablar.
Mhm.
¿Ya?
Okay. Thank
Gracias.
Want to translate it?
I'm sorry.
you. The translation of the question. She's asking about the integration in our inner parts, well, in our interior, with feminine and masculine, feminine and masculine that lives in us. How can we do that?
In order to then be able to enter into dialogue or relationship with.
No es una pregunta. Dieron mucha información de la historia de las mujeres. De las mujeres. Ahorita hay 2, 4, 6, 7 importantes mujeres y todas las mujeres que hay. Creo que es una respuesta de lo que somos las mujeres. De la fuerza que Dios nos dio. Gracias.
She's given a lot, or we've given a lot of information about the history of women, and there are many women here. So the last part, la última parte. So it's a demonstration of the strength of women. It's more a comment. My other question, the women in history, we mentioned Miriam, Moshe. Miriam was a great protagonist. My name is Desiree.
3 meses sin nombre.
I was
Y esta persona, esta mujer sin nombre en el Tanaj, que fue quien
There's a woman
recogió
without
a
a name
Moshe,
in the Tanakh,
no tiene nombre. Y a mí, en cuanto a mi identidad,
and as relates to my
es necesario
identity,
ponerle luz. Y
this gave
siento
me
que,
light because I was without a name for a while.
que no la conocemos demasiado. Y
We
sería
don't.
muy interesante ponerle luz y conocer a esta mujer.
It would be interesting to
Tan
shed some light
maravillosa.
on this woman without a name.
Gracias.
She spoke a lot about the challenges facing Middle Eastern women. And I was wondering, as we're talking about Mary Magdalene and we're here in Magdala, what kind of role model, what kind of symbol can she be for Middle Eastern women here in their struggle to achieve equality, to fight for their rights, to not be afraid? So how does she see Mary Magdalene as a symbol of their struggle?
Thank you.
That question was the same as our
It's also regarding Mary Magdalene. I wondered, did you also look into what's happening right now that Mary Magdalene has become a big figure, or I don't know how to call it, in a new age era? And what are your thoughts about that? And I think,
I would like to receive from you a definition of what is a woman, because you enrich us with that particular subject. But I would like to enrich us, all of you, with this answer. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yesterday, Hani was saying about that there were an agenda And there is some rumors that there is the 2030 agenda or something like that that is changing in their mind, in our minds and our language, to change the whole behavior of the world. What do you think about that? That is true or not? And what can we do as women? Thank you.
Okay, Mariana has another question here.
Okay, thank you. I guess just a question from the different topics that were spoken about. What is your advice for we're all young here, but I'm talking about like women like that are starting sort of their journey, young adults or whatever, to stay sort of like focused on the true identity of our femininity, and not be persuaded by like the world's idea of what a woman should be, I guess, in like the faith aspect or like the professional aspect, in any way that you want to share. Any advice for us?
Okay, so I think let's stop here and begin answering because so the first one, I think the first one was for Marta. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
maybe we can all say something.
okay.
No?
But-
we can pass the microphone and you say whatever you want. No? That can it be the idea? Okay. So I'll say whatever I want. I like very much your question because it's something that I wanted to say and I didn't because out of time. Because there's this concept very, very rich and beautiful that you have to help me to translate, Jennifer, because it's impossible. Engendramiento recíproco.
Reciprocal generation?
Yeah. Okay.
Conception?
Yeah. Well, the idea is, and it's a beautiful concept, is that we all, men and women, have all the virtues and capacities and of human beings as human beings, but there are some aspects and potentialities in me that only come out with encounter with men, and some aspects in men that only flourish with encounter with women. So it's more or less the idea of Jung, animus and anima. That we all have, he says that men have a big animus, which would be like the soul of a man, and a small anima, which would be the soul of a woman. And the opposite with women, we all have a big anima and a small animus. And in the encounter with the other, what is masculine in me comes out. It doesn't mean that I become more masculine. It means that masculinity educates and modulates my femininity. And I'll put an example to make it more clear. It's demonstrated that when you have just masculine environments or feminine environments, the defects of men and women become more acute. So men isolated become more aggressive, individualistic, harsh. It's difficult for them to get in touch with their own emotions. And women isolated, we become more complicated, unstable, manipulated. Yeah. And this is just a statistic. So when we are together, we educate the other's sexual dimension, because masculinity educates femininity and femininity educates masculinity. And that's the idea of reciprocal and gender. I don't think there are characteristics that are exclusive of men or exclusive of women. We have a modality to live them, but I think men are tender and women are strong. We are strong and tender in a different way, maybe with different accents, but it's in the encounter where we become fully what we have to be. No? This is I don't know if I explain the idea, but I love that idea very much. So, and I had another thing to say about the advice to young women. I think, I don't know if it's an advice or not, but in this confusion of what does it mean to be a woman or a man, I think a good book, a good starting point can be to get in touch with our own body. So what does my body say about who I am? No? Because it's how do you say? It makes me think that a culture that puts so much strength and centrality in bodies, we are not able to read what our body says of who we are. So that's kind of strange. No? So to get in touch, what does my body say about how I feel, but also about who am I? No? So I think this kind of experience can be a way to be really who you are. No? So I don't know. I pass the microphone so you can say more intelligent things.
Thank you for that. In answer to your first question, which I think is a question that touches a lot of conversations we've had over these days, again, from a Christian and I'm a church historian, so from an academic perspective of material culture, I would invite you to remember that that depiction we saw on the sarcophagus that had Jesus standing between Adam and Eve and presenting them back to God. And at the same time, we have the scene of Eve being created and Adam in his deep sleep. But in a particular way, we might think, at least the Christian tradition has a very strong sense, drawing from the Torah, that the human nature is found in men and women. One human nature manifested in men and women. And so in that way, sometimes we can create false dialectics, meaning false oppositions, where maybe there's not so much opposition, where maybe distinction, and yet if we didn't all share the same human nature, but if men and women didn't share the same human nature, this is a philosophical principle, we're not going back too far, don't worry, we would have a lot more problems at hand as far as reconciling our unity, our common human experience. So I think that's always helpful to have in mind, and the Christian perspective of Jesus and his humanity, in fact, overrides the masculine feminine in certain respects. And I'll only add one thing that I had a conversation with Peg about that was interesting. There's a little riddle that you might like to think about that also answers some of these questions, I think. The riddle is this, that was very common in patristics and medieval thought. Jesus came as a man born of a woman. But if he had come as a woman, he would have been a woman born of a woman and would not have encompassed all of human nature in his redeeming project. Very interesting. That if the incarnate word had been a woman, then she would have been a woman born of a woman and would not have enveloped all of human nature. That instead, a man born of a woman envelops the whole human nature in the redemptive plan. It's a riddle. It's a fun one. Thank you. That's enough because there's no more.
Thank you. Now I need to top that. I'll say a quick 3 thoughts. First of all, going out of what you said, God created us different. We're all human, and that's the uniting part, but we're also different. Men and women are not the same, and that's a good thing. I think it will be a very boring place if it was otherwise. And I truly believe that in every single one of us, we have attributes that some are feminine and some are masculine, some are maybe world known, and some are perceptions and sort of collection of thoughts of who is a woman or who is a man that each of us have collected during the course of our lives. But I think embracing the fact that it's like a yin and yang, that they exist in every single one of us, is a beautiful thing. The other thing is that this is amazing what's happening here over this weekend, that we're sitting in a 99.9% feminine room, but it's not how things are in the world. And I think that we have a really great responsibility to strive for equality between genders in every single room that we enter to. Last Sunday, I was part of this group of educators, doesn't even matter what the topic is, but I entered the room and I saw so many men. And for the first couple of minutes, I was the only woman. And after 10 or 15 minutes, there's another woman that entered the room. And usually I'm not the type of person that will start counting, but it was just so strong that it was a dominated masculine room that I literally counted the numbers. And we were sitting in one circle and there were 22 men and 2 women. And I was thinking to myself, how on earth the organizers of this event allowed this to happen? This is so not 2023. It's just not possible that we will go into a room that has 20 men and only 2 women. And honestly, it doesn't even matter what the topic is. It really doesn't matter. Women are over 50% of the population of the world. There's no excuse whatsoever that we're going to go into a room which is so dominated by men. Doesn't matter what the topic is. And I think that we also have a lot of responsibility for it, because if I enter such a room and I've been invited for whatever reason, then one way is for me to say, oh, I'm so wonderful. How wonderful that they invited me. But the other way is to say, this is not enough. I cannot be the only woman in the circle. I need to make sure that I'm going to bring more powerful, incredible women to sit in that circle, to make a statement that we are half of the population of the world. And we have intelligence and integrity and smart and important and valuable things to say about any topic, whether it's religion or spirituality or anything, really. So that's the second thing. I think it also connects to Sister Verba's question, for me, of what is a woman. A woman is, for me, is a human being who is intelligent, who is compassionate, who wants to bridge between people. And it's also someone who comes out of love. I really want to come out of love to every single thing that I do, to every human encounter. And I believe that if every single one of us, men and women alike, will come to every person that we meet out of love, that will create a huge difference in the world. And then lastly, to Mariana's question, the most important thing that I believe in is to have a stamina, to have a core that you know who you are, that every single one of us know who am I. And I may need to go through a soul search for my entire life to get there, but at least I'm going to know that I'm on the right path. Because if we do that, it really doesn't matter what other people say about us. Because as long as I know who I am, it really, any other storm that happens around me cannot bring me go down. So my advice is, and I'm somewhere in the middle on the age group, do not ever let anyone in this world to tell you who you are. You know who you are. Your heart knows who you are.
No, we have very little time. Yeah, okay. I will say that I'm not sure I know who I am. I'm 62 years old. I'm not sure, but I'm quite sure that my identity is a searcher. I'm a continuous searcher. And that really requires stamina, but it requires also another word. I teach a lot all over the country. Many of the people who come to my lectures are women. I find it that women crave for spirituality, crave for knowledge. They crave for, they are made of curious nature. But I don't give up on the word intelligence. And for me, this is one thing that was missing perhaps in our talks. I would like to have a talk about intelligence and women. Remember Abigail, the biblical writer who was a probably patriarchal chauvinist, but he wrote about her that she's intelligent, and secondly, that she's beautiful. And as we spoke before, women are manipulating, but men are strategic designers. So we need to put a focus on that. I'm not searching to be a masculine somebody in order to gain intelligence. We have intelligence. But the way we compose the world is this structure of intelligence and love and faith and what you said, bridge. So this is what women are. Women are.
Men are leaders and women are bossy.
Right.
Well, changing a little bit the subject so we can, because we are we have 3 people still. And I would like to address that 2030, the sustainable goals. I think that first we have to create our own opinion and read them by ourselves, because sometimes the media or your own algorithm in the social media can tell you, oh, this is bad, this is creating a big problem, and on the other hand, no, this is the greatest thing ever. I think there are common goals that address today's problems, and that's a good thing on a common ground. Or, for example, fighting against poverty, fighting against women's lack of access to education, as we saw yesterday, against violence, fighting against climate change. I think those are good things. Of course, when you read it, you can say, oh, I buy all of this. This I will have. I would not agree. Yeah, I would not agree 100%. But I wouldn't just say it's a terrible thing without reading it and forming my own opinion, because that's really important. Firstly, to put a distance between social media and what you really think and what the text in fact says. And yes, I think that's what I could say right now. Thank you.
I'll address the New Age era that we have. I have to confess, once I left Magdala, I took a different direction academically, so I haven't continued to dive into that whole theme. But while I was here, I had the experience of engaging in conversations with several people who, particularly one person, a long conversation, who believed that Mary Magdalene was the feminine divine. And this introduced me to something I had never encountered before about Mary Magdalene. What I felt that I needed to do in that encounter was find common ground, first of all, and then understand what the differences were in our worldviews and in our doctrinal understanding. I felt that there was a distinction that they weren't making in the difference between a creator and creation. And so they were setting up a lot of, they weren't making that distinction, and they were making Mary Magdalene another god. So it for me, it sounded pagan. It was bordering on a pagan type of worldview. Again, I'm not an expert in that whole area, but so that's where I respectfully disagreed with that particular approach to Mary Magdalene. And I felt it was a bit pantheistic and Gnostic in its philosophical tendencies. So if that helps. Do you want to answer to that? No time. Okay.
Okay, I'll first address your question on how can Mary Magdalene be a right model in the Middle East. Well, first of all, you have to remember that the Middle East is composed 99% of Muslim people and very few Christians. But even for us as Christians, you know, I remember myself, Mary Magdalene for me was very vivid during school years. I studied at Rosary Sister School, where, of course, during going to church and in the religious classrooms, we were discussing those issues. But then after school, it was like a memoir. And when I came here, okay, it was reviving this memory. And I really have to be very honest and blame the Catholic Church. I myself am a Catholic, so I blame my church. Because I remember growing up, the priests used to come to our house at least once a year to do the blessing, to read the Bible together, to check how we were doing. For more than 20 years, we didn't have a priest come into my house. Yes, for more than 20 years. No. They know I'm a Christian married to a Muslim. They should care for my soul, for my Christian soul, and at least put me on a list where they say, we have to take more care of this woman, because I have an excellent husband, very open, very loving. but you become liable to so many influences. So I am a person who feels need to be embraced by my Catholic Church. It's not happening. So if we want to take Mary Magdalene as a role model, and I think I knew a few things about her growing up, but now I learned so much. And I feel like the fact that, she had so much faith and so much hope and so much determination, and she knew whom to ally herself with, really resonates a lot with us as Palestinian women, specifically because so many times, we are put under the terminology of being terrorist, heartless. We don't care if our kids are shot dead. We are singing and dancing. Of course, this is because people don't understand the culture, don't understand the pain. And I think Mary Magdalene went through so much. And I think once we get to know more about her, we can find this affiliation. We can find in her a role model. But I think each party has to do their job. And I think the church should do much more, in taking care of their constituencies and of really spreading the Christian values much wider. I will also address the issue of the 2030 agenda. I think it's an excellent agenda, and I totally agree. I think what is threatening the world are agendas that we don't understand. Look at Corona and COVID. Look at the digitalization, despite all the benefits. Where are we going in humanity, in our existence? And how much are we prepared for that? Do you really know if Corona is a truth or a fake thing? All those vaccinations we took, we hear so many contradicting stories, and we don't know really where the world is leading us. And this makes us really more contemplate and think, and we have to really look wisely into agendas. So when I was yesterday talking about agendas, I was not talking about 2030. In my culture, they will look at things that are different, that are contradicting to our values as in our culture, whether you are a Muslim or a Christian. Certain things are just not part of your culture. So this is where they feel that there's a foreign agenda trying to come and change your value and belief system. But I totally agree, certain agendas are there to help us really get our rights in education, in health, in participation. But once you have to really read carefully and get to know what those things stand for. I will also address your question, actually. Advice to young, last thing. Advice to young evolving women, if I understood you correctly. I think this is a very difficult issue, but you can be a role model for young people yourself. If I close my eyes and think okay, what do I want when I was younger? But still I do it up till now. It's really, I feel, it's very important that you leave, we say in Arabic, a basme. You leave a mark in this life. So what is really your added value in life? Look at your age, what you're doing. You made us all cry, contemplate, and think, and go deep into our souls and our being. Yes, you got your strength from God, from the inspiration you got. And this is what young people should look for, the inspiration. You're a man, you're a woman. When I can never imagine myself being a male or a man. I can't. I've always been proud of who I am, even if I'm overweight and struggling all my life with dieting. But all the time I was proud, and I can only see myself as a woman. Even if I don't have my own children, I feel I'm a mother. I give so much. Even I give headache to all the cats and the dogs in the streets because I love them so much. So what's a woman? It's this ability to give and to love. Yes, it's there in men as well, but we extend beyond ourselves. And this is how I see a woman, And so really just close your eyes and then contemplate, and don't rush into decisions. At certain age, sex drives us all. Don't make decisions at this crazy phase in your life. So really, because this is where most of the troubles happen. So no, take things easy, think, contemplate, and rediscover yourself. And when you rediscover yourself, it doesn't have that you rediscover that you're a male and not a female and vice versa. No, you will discover so many strong things inside you. I'm not being prejudiced, but this is what I believe in. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank you very much for this moment of questions. I think everything was very enlightening and enriching. And Kathleen, come here and tell us what's next.
I think all of us would love to continue this, and it just is supposed to, like I said, provide that space. Thank you for joining us again by live stream, and thank you all of you for being here. This is not over. Do not forget your flowers. You don't have to wear them now. You can leave things here, not valuable things, but we need to head over to Duke and Altum to enjoy a wonderful concert. The Art of the Fugue begins at 12:30, and we'll have lunch directly after that. Thank you for joining us by live transmission, and I just want to invite all of you to look at some of the summaries of the concerts we will have online very soon. And so thank you again for joining us, and God bless you.